Today, the writer Gia Tolentino on growing up online and Boris Johnson's new Brexit plan. So you write a lot about self and how you understand different versions of yourself, but how would you describe you to other people?
I don't know if I do. Well, how I put myself in my Twitter bio is Rosie Perez in the credits of Do the Right Thing. Have you seen that movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, when she's just dancing. I mean, when people ask me what I do at parties for a long time, I just said I was a blogger, and I still kind of do sometimes. Like sometimes I say I'm a writer, sometimes I say I'm an idiot, and that's
Professional idiot.
Yeah, and that's pretty much the end of it.
If Gia Tolentino, a former editor at Jezebel and now a writer for The New Yorker, really is a professional idiot, then she's kind of reinventing what we traditionally understand by the word idiocy. You may not have heard of her, but she's been described as one of the best young essayists in the world, writing about modern life, everything from casual drug taking to mainstream feminism. In the process, she's attracted a global audience, many of whom are millennial women. And as a voice for this generation, she has a unique perspective on the societies we live in. Brought up in a Southern Baptist community in Texas, she appeared on a reality TV show when she was a teenager and worked for the Peace Corps in Kyrgyzstan. All of these experiences are now a part of her first book, Trick Mirror, which also explores how our lives have been fundamentally changed by living them online, and the way in which this has created a culture of self-obsession that affects everything we do, from our exercise routines to who we vote for. From The Guardian, I'm Rachel Humphreys. Today in Focus, Gia Tolentino on growing up in the age of the internet. So you grew up in Texas. What was your upbringing like? What was it like growing up there?
My upbringing was very strange. I was born in Canada, but I went for 12 years to a school attached to the second biggest megachurch in the States. It's a Southern Baptist, very conservative, very white school. I was on scholarship there like half the time. And it was, I went to Bible study every day, went to chapel every week, got my first promise ring, like my first true love waits, no sex ring when I was in 4th grade. I had a very Texas upbringing. Like it was this church, as a cheerleader in high school. I spent all my time at football games. And this was Texas in the George W. Bush era. It was like Enron and Halliburton and all of these like super corrupt, kind of extractive Texan empires. And I didn't meet a liberal person until I went to college. I never met anyone that was anti-war, or pro-choice. It was a really kind of cloistered environment. I think that because I grew up there, I think I'm very, very comfortable with disagreement. Like on the internet, someone, would be like, you're totally wrong and I think you're stupid. And I'd be like, okay. Because I grew up not knowing a single person who ever believed the same things that I believed, really. I still learned to have fun and like my friends, and weirdly that was, as with other things in my life, it was really good training for being on the internet all the time.
And during your teenage years, something really interesting happened, which is you went on a reality TV show. Can you explain how on earth that happened?
Well, when you're 16 and you'll just do anything you can to get out of the house.
Very much remember that time.
Yeah. I was a senior in high school, and I was at the mall, and someone was making videos casting videos for this reality show, and I auditioned and I got cast. And so I went to Puerto Rico for a month my senior year. It was this show called Girls vs. Boys Puerto Rico, and it was four boys versus 4 girls in Puerto Rico. Long time no see. And we just did little challenges and lived in this house. And so I filmed this whole show. There were 10 episodes. It aired over the next summer. I never watched it because I think, over 2004 to 2005, by the time the show started airing, Facebook had just happened, right? It had just become a little bit clearer to me that so much of culture and the future would be reorganizing itself around monetizable selfhood, or around self-broadcasting as this sort of everyday practice rather than an anomalous practice. And then I came back and I had this little flicker that maybe I would be doing things like this for the rest of my life. And so I never watched it. And then like 2 years ago, I was like, if you're going to write a book about self-delusion,
I've got this great material.
Yeah. And also, right, I was like, okay, if you're going to humiliate yourself, or, if you're going to sink yourself into this humiliation by watching the show, you better do it on your own, like on your own dime. Like, you're not doing it for another publication. Like, do it for your own book.
It's like you did a self-delusion workout program.
I know. Well, it's like my whole life. I mean, what is life but a self-delusion boot camp, Like, two people I am really close to had seen the show. My boyfriend had seen the show, and my best friend in college had seen the show. And they were like, you're exactly the same. And I just like put my hands over my ears like earmuffs. I was like, what? That doesn't make any sense. And I watched it, and I was basically exactly the same. I think it was scary in a way that I wasn't anticipating, because I was thinking, why did I take so naturally to this situation where I was on camera, where it was natural to have cameras around all the time. And I think that it was sort of a reckoning with how well my selfhood has always keyed really naturally into conditions that I find kind of objectively monstrous. Our senses of self and our identities and our just daily practices have cleaved to and been shaped by systems that, when we think about them, are awful. And yet, here we are,
And reality TV since then has become a huge part of our culture.
Season 23 of The Bachelor is off to a dramatic...
We're driving, making our way to the Jersey Shore house, hopefully.
Because tonight, the first person will be voted out of the Big Brother house.
Brand new, The Only Way is Essex.
Getting real.
The real world.
The most inappropriate celebrity in the jungle.
It's been 8 weeks of romance, rows, and rocky relationships, and now it's time.
What sort of impact do you think that's had on our society?
I think that it has made a sort of cataclysmic, era-shifting change to have so much of contemporary life and culture be reorganized around what reality TV is, which is sort of this panopticon, like these mechanisms of self-surveillance and self-broadcasting that were formerly not really available to anyone but the most famous people, but are now universally available to anyone with a smartphone.
Good morning.
Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel.
Hi everyone.
Hey guys.
Welcome back to my channel. Hi. How are ya? Driving with a mirror is really hard, but I'm